Hello, my friend, and welcome to the study for some beautiful paper and pen and writing sounds today. We're going to do some Latin to English and English to Latin sentences for you to relax, zone out, and maybe, if you're keen, focus a little bit on translation and bits of grammar that we'll look through, such as uses of the ablative case, time expressions, reported speech, consecutive clauses, and different uses of participles. And we'll have plenty of lovely paper sounds, pen and ink, and soft speaking. So, all you fans of Latin grammar, get ready for some fun revision and relaxation. We'll start with a Latin sentence. Nemo prae gaudio dormivit. What we have here is, we'll look at the verb first. So we have third person singular of imperfect tense of dormo, to sleep. So somebody slept. Nemo, nobody slept. Ea nocte, that is in the ablative, for a time within which. And we have a preposition prae. Prae is a sort of a conjunction or kind of a preposition. It's, in this sense, can mean because, and it takes the ablative case here, gaudio. Nemo, no one, ea nocte, during that night, prae gaudio, because of happiness, joy, rejoicing, slept. So no one slept that night because of or for happiness. let's get a little bit more complicated, more involved now. Britanni, Fero pro pecunia uti solent. And our verb at the very end, to be accustomed to. And this is in the present indicative third person plural and goes with our subject Britanni, the Britons. The Britons are accustomed to. Ferro, that's iron, and pro pecunia. Can we have more ablative usage here? Ferro is in the ablative, so we know it must be a means or an instrument or the object of a preposition that takes ablative, possibly, but we don't have a preposition except for pro, and following pro is pecunia. Pro pecunia. So we have for or as, pecunia, money. So unlike the pry, which is because or for, denoting it's preventing them from sleeping. Pry, no one slept because joy prevented them from sleeping. Here we have because of or as for use of money. Uti. So uti, we know that we have a verb here that needs another verb with it because they're accustomed to something. It's usually accustomed to doing something. In English, we say, we use a gerund, accustomed to running, accustomed to reading. Here we're going to see an infinitive. Gerunds in Latin are not often used in this way, so here we just put our infinitive of the deponent verb, utur, uti, which means to use or the use of something in the noun form. Since we've got an infinitive, we say using. So accustomed to, and in English, using. So our to becomes a preposition instead of part of an infinitive. We could also use an infinitive, but you most often hear gerund in English. To using iron, ferro, and there's utor as a deponent, taken an ablative for currency. Let's try another one. Latin to English. Pater meus. And there's a deponent verb again, minatus est. Se non me. This one's a bit of a long sentence. Secum. And we've got some more. Ad mare. Ad mare. ducturum esse. So we have quite a bit going on here. We can see a lot of pronouns. We can see a future passive. And we've got another deponent, minor, id minor, which is an idiom. So we'll start with my father, pater meus minatus est. And that is threatened, minor. And because it's deponent, it looks like a passive, but it's just a preterite deponent verb. My father threatened, say, that he. So now, since we have our clause there, we have our pronoun referring back to the subject, that he. So we can insert our conjunction in English to indicate another clause. Non me secum ad mare ducturum esse. And there's our future passive. What shall we do with that one? Well, in English, we don't necessarily use the future with these types of clauses. We can use our infinitive not to take. Ducturum esse. Take, lead, accompany, more like take. To take me, me, secum. Say again, cum, with him. Ad mare, to the sea. And in English we can even get rid of the article there, to sea. My father threatened not to take me to sea with him. And if we're using an infinitive there, we don't need that as well. So we can say, my father threatened not to take me with him to the sea. So, again, we don't need to say that he with the say here. We can leave it out in our English translation to make it more fluent. Alright, let's go for another. Tantum vini. Attulimus ut. I'm running out of ink. Aqua non nobis. Non nobis. Oh, the paper's starting to bleed. Look at that. Sorry about that. It's getting a bit messy. Let's see what we can do here. Yeah, that's a bleedy spot. But we'll soldier on here with our ink. The paper doesn't like the ink in this place. Opus. Dip. Seat. I don't know what happened to that part of the paper. Maybe I touched it with hand cream or something. If it keeps doing that, we'll get another piece. So tantum vini. Tantum is so much. subject is we. At tulimus, to bring. And here we have an imperfect. So we brought tandem, so much wine. Weenie. Ablative. Ut. And now we have our that. So much that. You can use tanta quam, but here we use on ut for our subjunctive clause. It's almost like a purpose clause here. So much that aqua non nobis opus sit. Opus est is literally work, and sit is our subjunctive of to be. So be work. Subjunctive might be work, but as an idiomatic phrase, it means to have need of something. Opus sit. So we've got that. Non opus sit, there was no need. For us, nobis, to us, for water. And if we want to render this last clause in English, we can make our subject nobis instead of the dative. So to us, we say we have or had, because we're going to match our English clause with the one in the main clause. No need for water. So when you see this phrase there, it's obviously not nobis. Nobis is not in the nominative, so it can't be the subject. It's for us. There was no need for water. Or we had no need of water. Alright, let's see how our ink is doing now. It's bleeding a little bit. I think I'm going to get another paper. Blow on the ink to dry it. The paper's very smooth, but it's not liking this ink at the moment. That's too bad. So we'll get some more. Another paper here. Alright, let's make a go with this one. Use that. Nega verunt quam accusatum iri. So see, we've got an infinitive now. I'm going to put our little semicolon like that. And second part, said non. Putavimus eos where, running out of space, and loqui. It's bleeding just a little bit there. I think this one will be okay. So negaverunt. They said that not. And now we know it's in the preterite there, the imperfect tense. And we have quam, someone, except we've got a negative, negaverunt. They said that not someone. Or we could say that they said that no one. Accusatorum iri. Accusatorum is, of course, to be accused, because it's in the passive tense. And iri is our infinitive, so we've got indirect speech, because our main verb is negaverunt. And our accusative, our subject accusative, and iri, our infinitive for our passive. Our future infinitive, so we say would be, so they negaverunt said that not, or said that not, except it's someone, no one. No one, future passive, would be accused infinitive. There's our little semicolon. They said that no one would be accused. Said, but non putavimus eos vera loqui. So non putavimus, puto is to think, and here we have our imperfect first person plural. We didn't think, because we've got a noun. We did not think. Eos vera loqui. Eos referring to the they, subject of the previous clause. Vera loqui. And we're going to insert a conjunction in English, that they, eos, and that's accusative here because again it's reported speech. Loqui, and that's our deponent in the infinitive, where we match our verb here to, or our verb tense in English, to the one in the main clause, which is the past. So we can say loqui, were telling, and because it's deponent, we've got ablative, the truth, vera. They said that no one would be accused, but we didn't believe them. We didn't think they were telling the truth. So any of these might be from a longer story. You can imagine any kind of court cases or stories about heroism, long epics, military engagements, things like that. Let's do another one from Latin to English here. I think this one will be nice. Hostium. Let's watch the ink just soak into the paper. Oh, and hostium terrore. Oh, that's a good one, Freti. And try not to touch the paper too much in case my skin makes it unable to hold the ink. Now, summa, which is an epitome, isn't it? Celeritate. Summa celeritate in eorum fines. We've got some birds outside singing to us in the garden. And processimus. Processimus. Ink seems to be doing not too badly. Alright. Hostium, and that's our genitive plural because hostes is always in the plural. So of the enemy, terrore and freti. So freti is our ablative and terrore. And freti is our participle and terrore in the ablative, the fear. So we have fear of the enemy because the enemy is in genitive, and this is relying on, to rely, freti. We don't know our subject, but we know it's plural. Summa celeritate, with greatest speed, in eorum fines processimus, and there's our subject, we. So we've got, we advanced, processimus, with greatest speed, summa celeritate, in eorum fines. Into, in, because we've got an accusative. And fines is beyond the border, beyond the line. So into of theirs, their territory. So we know there's movement because we've got an accusative and it's into. Into their, eorum, is the enemy because it's in plural. So the we that are advancing are also the we that are relying on the fear of the enemy. Actually, the enemy's fear. So not our fear of the enemy, but the enemy's fear. Relying on the enemy's fear, we advanced with greatest speed into their territory. Could be Caesar and the Gauls, perhaps, or going beyond the limes in Germania with Varus and his legion that never came back, or even in Britannia, going to fight the Britons and the Picts, advancing past the Antonine Wall. Alright, let's get back to our grammar. Another question. Nonne. Stop it there. Nonne. Sentis. There we are. Nonne sentis quem ad modus, ad modum, here, nos decipiat. So there's our question. Nonne sentis. Nonne is expecting a yes, and sentis, you. Do you not sense or understand or realize? Do you not sense? Quem ad modum. There's our idiomatic expression for a way in which quem ad modum, modum the way, and quem which. So we're going to say how. Nos, us, the accusative, decipiat, our subjunctive. So do you not sense how he decipiat, present tense, is deceiving us? Do you not sense that he is a spy? He's not telling the truth. He's engaged in treachery and deception. That one's pretty straightforward. Let's try one more long one, shall we? Got some nice long ones. Let's try one from English to Latin. I'll write the English in pencil. Sailing in a fast ship. There's a nice sort of a present participle in English, so we think about how we're going to translate that in Latin. We reached Asia in 12 days. Do you like the sounds of that pencil? It's quite nice, isn't it? So how do we put this in Latin? We can make a participle. So we can say we know that's the subject there. We, the sailing in a fast ship, we reached Asia in 12 days. So we've also got time here, time within which. Another way we can think about this is if this phrase is an absolute phrase. We were sailing in a fast ship. So we've got two interesting points here. We can make an ablative absolute, but we also have, instead of sailing, we can use vectus, because this is an idiomatic phrase. So now is vectus. So we can say naue, or ablative, and vecti, because we're plural. So we use our passive participle to carry by ship. Carried by ship. And fast, caleri, matching. So carried by a fast ship, or fast carried by ship. And we can also put the vecti, seeing as it's the verbal part at the end. So caleri naue vecti. And now we reach our main clause. We have our in 12 days. So we use an ablative. Duo. Get more ink. That's right, the bird is helping us. Duo decim. And diebus. It's our funny little dies for days, and we put that in the ablative. And to Asia. Oh, I'm writing English. I'm supposed to write Latin. In Asiam. So remember, in Latin, if in is with the accusative, like it is here, It means movement from one place to another in Asiam. And reached, per venire, and we can put that in the imperfect. Per venimus. We reached Asia in 12 days, being carried by a fast ship. So, how's it going? We can hear birds today, this morning, and I'm still in pajamas because I'm having a nice, lazy morning here in the study with you, my friend. Doing some Latin. Shall we do some more? Let's do a Latin to English. Get some more of these interesting little phrases. Nobis in sciis. Disgesserant. And here we have something very interesting indeed. Nec scebamus ubi eios rursus reperturi, or future there, essemus. There we are. Ink's doing okay so far. Nobis in sciis discesserunt. So we've got nobis at the very beginning, which might be misleading for native English speakers and possibly German speakers because we've got a we. However, we see that it is in the dative or ablative, and our subject is third person plural. They left discesserunt. In sciis, it's a participle, and used with an ablative nobis, it means without someone's knowledge. In sciis nobis, without our knowledge. In sciis is not knowing. Sciis, knowing. So, without our knowledge, without us knowing, unbeknownst to us, they left. Nec. Interesting use of nec here. It just indicates a negative. It can mean several different, or we can express several different ways in English. This negative of nec. You can have the nec as later in the clause, but here we don't. We just have nec scebamus. So, in essence, two consecutive clauses. We have nor scebamus. Did we know? Nor did we know. Ubi, when. Eos rursus reperture essemus. This one shows that we've got eos, our almost reported speech. We didn't know something. When they is in the accusative. And there's our subject, we. Reperturi, would see, rursus, again. So, we didn't know ubi, when we would see them again. Nec scebamus. We could say without knowing when we would see them again. And in English, that means the knowing would be a gerund. we cannot render gerund in Latin here because sine never takes a gerund. So we have to say nec skicpamus. Without our knowledge, they left. And nor did we know, ubi when reperturi essemus, so our future, we would see eos them again, rursus. They left without our knowledge. Without our knowledge, they left. And we'll insert an and. We did not know when we might see them again. So we've got it in. Do a few more, shall we? There's a good example here of some time expressions. Ab hinc annos decem Troia disgessimus. This looks like it's straight from the Aeneid. We could also say, I think this one I like because it's just very eloquent. Or it is deponent, sumus, profecti sumus, disgessimus. And now we have sex. Sounds funny on its own, doesn't it? Let's get back to our grammar. Iam menses in hac insula habitamus. So we've got our time expression ab hinc, which is ago, and our accusative ab hinc annos decem, accusative of 10 years ago. Troia disgessimus, or profecti sumus, we left Troy. And now we have habitamus, so we live. Sex iam menses, so now, and we have our ablative for 6 months, a duration. In hac insula, ablative of situation or place. So on this island, could be the Lotus Eaters, but probably not. We live. How do we render this in English now? So the Latin uses the present tense to denote an action that's still going on. So that means in English we can use our perfect, our present perfect tense. So we left Troy 10 years ago, and we have been living on this island now for 6 months. Iam you don't even need to put in English if you don't want to, because we've got our present perfect indicating time, something's still happening for 6 months. Let's do just a couple more. See if our paper will take it. That one. Let's try it with this one. There we go. Let's do an English to Latin. Here's a very interesting question. Why do you wish? You can already form that in Latin. I can move my paper a little bit. To discover the height of that tree. Could be an architect, could be a military engineer. The Romans were big builders. So, interestingly, in Latin, we aren't going to translate this word for word. We're going to think about idiomatic phrasing and how we can change a phrase or a clause. So we've got that tree, illa arbor, that tree. Why? We can always use kur for our question. Now we can play with the rest of it a little bit. In English, what we have is you wish and an infinitive to discover, and the object being the height of the tree's height. And we have wish. So we can say wis, why do you wish? And to discover, you could say invenire, cognoscere. We'll put cognoscere, to find out. So why do you wish to find out that tree? The height of that tree. So can we use, can we put the arbor in genitive and use the height as an object? We might want to do that, arboris, but we want to know how high the tree is. So in Romance languages, this is what we usually get, how high the tree is rather than the height of it. So quam alta, how high that tree sit, subjunctive might be. And there's our Latin rendering. So any Romance language, French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Provençal, Occitan, right? All of those will have how high that tree might be. So why do you wish to discover how high illa arbor, the tree, in a nominative, might be? Is much more used in Latin rather than the height itself. And you'll see that with a lot of authors. One last one will go Latin to English to round off all of these interesting sentences. Duce monente. And that is a nice little ablative there. Duce monente. Nona ora. Time phrase, 9 hours. Profecti sumus. I like profectus. I don't know why. It's very expressive, that one. And the next clause, ut, in order to. Vesperi. Adveniremus. So, duce monente, our ablative with something happening. Nona ora, for 9 hours, or is that a time? Probably at the 9th hour. At 9 o'clock. Or it could be the 9th hour after a certain watch. So that's a time. At that time. Ablative. To set out. So we set out. Let's bring that to the beginning. We set out. Duce monente. With the, say, leader advising, or in English we can say at the leader's advice, or on the advice of the guide, the leader. So you can see in English we're going to use prepositional phrases there, one for on the advice and a possessive of the guide, where Latin uses it, just two ablatives there, duce monente, with the leaders advising. On the advice of the guide, we set out at the 9th hour, ut in order to, or so that, vesperi, our ablative of time, in the evening, ad vineremus, we would arrive. Here we can say we could arrive, or we should arrive, or so as to arrive, because in order to, so as to arrive in the evening. So there's our different expressions of the Latin language, done with a little bit of pen and ink, pencil. And there's the lid. That's a very nice sound. Does that give you any tingles? I hope this has been tingly and relaxing. And if you are now asleep, I wish you beautiful, beautiful dreams. Be good to yourself, my friend. Be kind to others and be extraordinary.